The Exiled Princess. Under the cold violet sky of the planet Valora, the wind whispered through broken towers and silver dust. A lone figure walked across the empty road, her steps weak, her arms holding a small bundle close to her chest. Her name was Lyra, once a noble princess of the Valoran Empire. Now a banished soul, her people had turned their backs on her, calling her a traitor, a sinner, a disgrace, because the child she carried was not pure Valoran, but half human, and to the Council of Valora, that was the greatest crime of all. Lyra's cloak was torn, her face pale, her eyes red from crying. She knocked on a metal door in a small village, begging for shelter. An old alien woman opened the door, her eyes full of fear when she saw the baby's glowing blue veins. "Go away, Lyra," the woman whispered. "The soldiers are watching if they find you here. We will all die." The door slammed shut and the sound echoed through the cold air. Lyra stood still for a moment, clutching her daughter tighter. The little one stirred and coughed, her small hand glowing faintly in the dark. Her name was Nira, a fragile baby born between two worlds. Lyra tried another door, then another, but every door closed before she could finish speaking. Some spat at her feet. Others just whispered her name in fear. The once beloved princess was now the most hated being on the planet. Rumors spread that her child carried a curse, that the mix of human and Valoran blood would bring doom. But Lyra knew the truth. Her child was not a curse. She was a miracle, a sign of something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. Night fell, and Lyra walked into the frozen wasteland outside the city. Her breath turned to mist, her body shaking with exhaustion. She found a small cave and sat near the entrance. Wrapping her cloak around the baby, she looked at the stars, tiny dots of light, each one a dream she could never reach. "I will find a world for you, my little one," she whispered. "A place where you are not hated," Nira cooed softly, the glow under her skin pulsing like a heartbeat. Lyra smiled faintly, her tears freezing on her cheeks. But far above the clouds, the Council of Valora watched through their orbiting station. An order was already sent. Capture or kill the traitor before she leaves the planet. Their leader, High Chancellor Varric, spoke in his cold voice. "She carries a danger that must not reach the humans if that hybrid survives. Our rule is finished." Fighter drones launched from orbit, streaking through the sky toward the surface. Lyra felt the vibration in the ground, saw the red lights in the clouds, and knew they were coming. Her heart pounded. Her instincts screamed to run. She wrapped her baby tighter and ran through the icy plain, slipping, falling, but never stopping. The drones appeared in the distance, scanning the terrain with bright beams. A mechanical voice echoed through the air. "Lyra of Valora, surrender the child or face termination." She hid behind a cluster of crystal rocks, her breath shallow, her body trembling. She looked at her daughter. The baby's glow was getting stronger, and then something strange happened. The nearest drone suddenly froze mid-air, its sensors blinking rapidly. A wave of blue light spread from the baby's small hand. The machine sparked, then crashed into the snow. Silent and dead, Lyra gasped, staring at her daughter in awe. "What are you, my little one?" she whispered. Nira only smiled in her sleep. The glow fading softly, Lyra knew she could not stay. She made her way to the old starport, long abandoned since the war inside. She found a half-broken human shuttle left behind years ago. It was dusty, its systems barely alive, but it was her only hope. She placed Nira in the seat beside her and began working the controls. The engines coughed and roared. Struggling against years of silence outside, more drones appeared, closing in from every direction. "Come on, please." Just once, Lyra whispered to the ship, tears streaming down her face. The engines roared louder. Blue light filled the chamber. The shuttle lifted off just as laser fire rained from the sky. The ground exploded behind her, fire and smoke filling the horizon. The ship broke through the clouds, burning through the upper atmosphere. Lyra watched as her homeworld grew smaller below her. Her heart ached. She had lost everything, her title, her people, her past. But she still had her child, and that was enough reason to live. The stars stretched around her, infinite and cold. She entered the coordinates she had memorized from her lover's old maps, the route to human space. For a long moment, silence filled the small ship, only the hum of the engines and the soft breathing of her child. Lyra looked down at Nira and whispered, "You will be safe there among his kind. I promise." As the ship entered hyperspace, a faint distress signal automatically activated. It echoed across the void, repeating again and again, "This is Lyra of Valora. Please, for my child, help us." The message traveled through the blackness of space until it reached the outer edge of the Sol system. There, a human patrol ship picked up the signal. Inside the command deck, alarms began to beep softly. The captain leaned forward and frowned. "Unidentified vessel entering human space," he said. "Signal origin. Unknown alien female." And as the ship's sensors focused on the faint trace of Lyra's shuttle, human eyes turned toward the approaching light in the void. Unaware that this one desperate mother and her half-human child would soon change the fate of the entire galaxy, the human commander. The distress signal drifted through the black ocean of space. Weak and broken, on the bridge of the UHS Resolute, a Terran patrol ship guarding the edge of the Sol system. Red lights flickered softly and the hum of engines filled the silence. Commander Ethan Cole stood near the main console, his eyes sharp, his uniform worn but clean. He had seen too many false signals, too many traps left by pirates and raiders. But something in this message felt different. It wasn't a trick, it was a plea, a desperate cry. "Sir," said the communications officer. "The message repeats every 30 seconds. It's old tech. Not standard Galactic code," Ethan frowned, crossing his arms. "Play it again," he ordered. A soft voice echoed through the speakers, trembling and tired. "This is Lyra of Valora. Please, for my child, help us." The room fell silent. Every crew member looked up. Valora. That name wasn't unknown. It was one of the old alien empires that had cut ties with humanity decades ago. They called Earth a death world. They said humans were too dangerous to trust. And yet here was a Valoran begging humans for help, "Sir. Coordinates show a small craft approaching from the outer rim," said the navigator. "Speed is low, engines are failing, life signs minimal." Ethan took a deep breath, his instincts telling him to ignore it, to stay safe. But the voice in his head whispered something else. "Don't turn away." He looked at his crew. "Prepare a shuttle. I'll go check it myself." "Sir, that's against protocol," the security officer replied quickly. Ethan gave a faint smile. "Yeah, I know. That's why I'm doing it." Minutes later, the hangar doors of the Resolute opened. A small human shuttle detached and glided through the red mist of Mars orbit. The faint signal grew stronger, leading him to an abandoned mining outpost on the surface. The buildings were half buried in sand, silent, forgotten by time. Ethan landed his craft near the ruins, his boots crunching against the red dust. He moved carefully, scanning the area with his wrist device. Then he saw it, a damaged alien shuttle half covered in frost and sand. He approached slowly, weapon ready. The door hissed open with a weak spark, and inside he saw her, a woman with silver hair and pale skin, holding a small child close to her chest. She looked weak, terrified, but her eyes were full of something he didn't expect. Hope. "Stay back," she said in a trembling voice, her accent strange but soft. Ethan lowered his weapon, raising his hand slowly. "It's okay, you're safe now." Her knees gave out, and she fell to the ground, whispering, "Please, my daughter. Help her." He rushed forward, catching the baby just as she started coughing. He felt a strange warmth, the baby's skin glowing faint blue under the light. "What in God's name?" he muttered, staring in disbelief. The little girl looked up at him with bright silver eyes, eyes that didn't belong to any known species. He pressed his comlink. "Medical team. We've got 2 survivors, alien female, 1 child, both weak but alive." Back on the Resolute, the medics worked quickly. Lyra was treated for frostbite and dehydration. The child placed in a thermal capsule. Her vitals were stable, but her readings confused every medical scanner. Dr. Marin looked at Ethan and shook her head. "Sir, her DNA is impossible, half Valoran, half human." Ethan froze. "Half human? That's not even—" "It shouldn't be," Marin interrupted. "And yet it is." Ethan turned to the observation window, watching Lyra sleep beside her child. A mother risking everything to cross galaxies for her daughter. He thought of the hundreds of refugees who had died trying to find safe ground. But none had come from a world that hated humans more than Valora. When Lyra awoke, she looked around in confusion. Ethan sat beside her, his uniform dusty, his eyes tired but kind. "You're on a Terran ship," he said quietly. "You sent a distress call, we heard it." Lyra's lips trembled. "You shouldn't have come, they will follow me. They will kill you." "Who?" he asked, leaning forward. "The Council," she whispered. "They will not let my child live, she is forbidden." Ethan frowned. "Your child is part human. Lyra nodded slowly. Her father was one of you, a Terran explorer. He never returned. They called me a traitor. They took everything, so I ran. For a moment, silence filled the room, only the hum of the engines in the background. Ethan's voice softened. You did the right thing. Lyra shook her head, tears in her eyes. No, I doomed us both. He looked down at the small child in the capsule, her tiny hand glowing again. The sensors beeped. Her pulse was syncing with the ship's power grid. As if she was part of it, Dr. Marin gasped. Sir? She's connecting with our systems. She's stabilizing the reactor fluctuations. Ethan's eyes widened. You're saying she's saving the ship? The doctor nodded slowly. Or maybe protecting her mother. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. This wasn't just a child. This was something new. Something powerful. And if the aliens wanted her dead, there had to be a reason. He turned to the officer nearby. No one leaks this. Not a word, not a signal, understood? The crew nodded firmly. They trusted him even if they didn't fully understand. But outside, in the vast dark of space, something was already moving. Dozens of alien ships had detected the faint human signal carrying Lyra's name, and the message had reached ears that were never meant to hear it. As the Resolute cruised quietly toward Earth orbit, a shadow fell across the stars. Unknown vessels emerging from hyperspace. Ethan stood at the window, watching the scanners fill with red marks. He whispered under his breath, "What have we just brought home?" The hidden power. The UHS Resolute moved quietly through the darkness of space, its engines glowing faint blue. Inside, the crew whispered rumors about the alien mother and her strange child. Some said the baby was a weapon. Others said she was cursed. But Commander Ethan Cole said nothing. He only watched, waited, and wondered. Because deep down he knew this was no ordinary child. Lyra sat beside her daughter in the med bay, her hand gently resting on the capsule. Nira slept peacefully, her small fingers glowing with a soft light that pulsed in rhythm with the ship's hum. Sometimes the light flickered across the walls. Moving like gentle waves, the machines nearby responded to her presence. Power levels stabilized. Data screens cleared, systems aligned. Dr. Marin stood nearby, watching in disbelief. She's not draining power, she's balancing it. Like she understands it. Ethan looked at her quietly. You mean she's controlling the ship? The doctor nodded slowly. No, sir, it's more than that. She's communicating with it. Lyra spoke weakly, her voice trembling. Her father once said humans have something special inside them. Something that adapts, survives, learns faster than any other species. Ethan turned to her. You're saying she got that from him? Lyra nodded. From both of us, she's part human, part Velaran, but her soul, it's something more. The room grew silent again, only the soft breathing of the child breaking the stillness. Moments later, alarms began to flash across the ship. The radar filled with dozens of red signatures. Alien ships dropping out of hyperspace. Surrounding them, Lieutenant Harris shouted, "Multiple contacts, Velaran fleet inbound." "They've found us, sir." Ethan clenched his jaw. "Raise shields, keep weapons cold. Don't provoke them yet." A voice came through the comms, sharp, cold, and full of arrogance. "This is High Chancellor Varric of the Velaran Empire. Hand over the traitor and her abomination, or we will destroy your vessel." Ethan's voice was calm but firm. "You're trespassing in human territory. Stand down." Varric laughed darkly. "You think your deathworlder status frightens us? That child is a threat to the galaxy itself." Lyra ran onto the bridge, her eyes wide with terror. "Please, don't let them take her," she begged. "They will kill her. They fear what she can become." Ethan looked at her, then at the comm screen showing the alien fleet ready to fire. He whispered, "I won't hand over a child." He turned to his crew. "Evasive maneuvers, prepare for defensive fire. Keep them off us." Outside, the stars erupted in flashes of red and blue as beams cut through space. The Resolute shook violently. Panels burst, alarms screamed. Ethan gritted his teeth. "Return fire, but target engines only. We're not starting a war today." The ship twisted through debris, outnumbered and outgunned, and then something impossible happened. The lights dimmed, and a strange humming filled the air. Nira, still asleep in the medbay, began to glow brighter, her skin shimmering with blue and silver light. The ship's systems started to repair themselves automatically. Circuits healing, power surging. On the bridge, the crew gasped as a pulse of pure energy erupted from the hull. It spread like a wave, touching every Velaran ship in the area. Their weapons shut down, engines froze, and shields collapsed. But none were destroyed. Every system was just turned off. Dr. Marin stared at the readings in disbelief. Sir, that energy came from her, from the child. Ethan turned slowly, his eyes wide. She disabled an entire fleet, without killing anyone. Lyra stood at the window, tears shining in her eyes. She doesn't know hate. She only understands balance. The comms crackled again. The alien fleet was silent, their system still frozen. Varric's voice returned, this time not with anger but fear. What is that creature? He demanded. Ethan replied coldly. She's not a creature, she's a child. And you've just seen her mercy. The Valoran ships retreated into the darkness, limping away with their systems still dead. On board the Resolute, silence filled the halls. The crew looked at each other, half in awe, half in terror. Ethan turned to Dr. Marin. Can she do it again? The doctor hesitated, maybe. But every time she uses that power, it drains her life energy. She's still just a child. Lyra held Nira close, whispering softly, Don't be afraid, my little light. Later that night, Ethan stood by the viewport watching the stars drift by. He thought of what the Valorans had said. A threat to the galaxy. He couldn't deny that kind of power could terrify anyone. But he also remembered how she spared every ship, even after they tried to kill her. She's not a threat, he murmured. She's hope. The next morning, the ship received encrypted orders from Earth Command. They wanted Lyra and Nira brought to a secret Terran research base for study. Ethan's stomach tightened. He knew what study meant. Lyra sensed it too, her voice trembling. You promised she would be safe. Ethan met her gaze, guilt in his eyes. I did, and I intend to keep that promise. He turned to his crew and whispered, Set course for the outer belt, silent engines. No transmissions, Lieutenant Harris blinked. Sir, that's desertion. Ethan looked out the window, his face calm. Then I guess I'm a deserter. The engines flared as the Resolute vanished into the black, carrying a mother, her miraculous child, and the one human who refused to betray them, far behind them. The Valoran Council watched in growing panic. Reports spread across the stars about the hybrid child who stopped an entire fleet with a single breath. And across the galaxy, every alien power whispered the same fearful words. The humans are hiding something. The Council's judgment. The UHS Resolute moved in silence through the deep dark of the outer belt. Every system ran on low power, every signal hidden from scanners. Inside the ship, the air was heavy, the crew spoke in whispers. Afraid of what waited beyond the stars, Commander Ethan Cole stood in the control room, his hands resting on the edge of the glowing console. He had gone against direct orders, defied Earth Command, and now there was no turning back. But when he looked at Lyra and the small child sleeping peacefully beside her, he knew he had made the only choice his heart would allow. Lyra sat near the viewport, her silver eyes watching the endless stars drift by. Her daughter Nira lay wrapped in a soft blanket, glowing faintly like a living star each time she breathed. The energy inside her seemed to pulse with warmth and calm, but Lyra's heart carried fear, not hope. She knew the galaxy would never stop hunting them, because what they feared most was not destruction. It was change. On the central monitor, incoming transmissions began to flash. Ethan frowned and turned toward the screen. The emblem of the Galactic Council appeared, dozens of alien leaders forming a cold circle of judgment. Their voices overlapped, sharp and heavy. Commander Ethan Cole of Earth, your ship is in violation of interstellar law. You have taken into custody a dangerous hybrid that threatens all life. Deliver the child to Council custody or face full military retaliation. Ethan's jaw tightened, his voice steady but low. She's just a child, not a weapon. The Valoran Chancellor sneered from his holographic seat. You don't understand, human. Her existence breaks the balance. No hybrid between deathworlders and Valorans should exist. Lyra stepped forward, her voice trembling yet strong. You fear her because she is proof that your laws are built on hate. The chamber fell silent for a moment, the aliens staring with cold eyes. Then Varric's voice echoed again. If Earth protects that child, we will bring war to your homeworld. The screen went dark. Leaving only the hum of the engines, Ethan turned to his crew. They'll attack Earth next. Lieutenant Harris looked pale. Sir, if we go back now, we'll bring them right to the planet. Ethan's mind raced. He couldn't lead them home. Not yet. Set course for Titan Base, he said finally. It's abandoned, but we can hide there. Hours passed. Stars streaking by the windows as the ship jumped through dark space. Lyra stood beside Ethan, her voice quiet. You risk everything for us, why? He looked at her, tired but honest, because once, humanity was alone. No one helped us either. We learned to survive by helping each other. She smiled faintly. That's what he used to say. Ethan tilted his head. Who? My mate, the human explorer. Your kind took him in after he crashed on Valora. He believed humans could change the stars. Ethan smiled softly. Maybe he was right. As they approached Titan's orbit, the ship's scanners flickered. Dozens of signals appeared. Human warships rising from the moon's shadow. The Terran Defense Fleet, commanded by Admiral Reyes. Her voice came through the comms, sharp and commanding. Commander Cole, you are under arrest for disobeying direct orders and harboring alien fugitives. Power down your engines. Ethan closed his eyes briefly, then replied, Admiral, please listen to me. The Council wants the child not for peace, but for control. Reyes's voice hardened. Stand down, Ethan. Before you start something you can't stop. Before he could answer, the ship trembled violently, alarms screaming across the bridge. Lyra gasped as the lights dimmed and a cold shadow passed over the viewport. Outside, the blackness split apart as the Valoran armada entered Titan's orbit. Hundreds of warships glowing with crimson fire. The alien commander's voice filled every channel. Earth refuses our demand, then Earth will burn. Panic erupted across human comms. Admiral Reyes shouted orders. All ships, defensive formation, protect the colonies. Ethan looked out at the chaos, knowing what was coming. The first intergalactic war. And then, in the middle of that fear and noise, Nira began to cry. Her small hands glowed brighter than ever before. The light spreading across the room. The ship's systems surged, every power grid stabilizing under her influence. Her voice, soft and innocent, echoed through the ship. Please, no more fighting. Every comms channel across both fleets went silent in that stillness. Something incredible happened. The light spread beyond the Resolute. It touched the Terran ships, then the alien ones, wrapping them in a soft blue field. Weapons powered down. Targeting systems failed. Missiles froze mid-launch. Every warship, human or alien, became silent and still. The crews looked out at the stars in shock. As if the galaxy itself had stopped breathing, Ethan whispered, She's doing this again. Lyra held her daughter tightly, tears falling down her cheeks. She doesn't want anyone to die. She just wants peace. The light grew softer, like a heartbeat calming after fear, and across the Council's distant chamber, their monitors showed the impossible. The fleets of Earth and Valora floating side by side, weapons off. High Chancellor Varric stared at the image, his voice shaking. She stopped a war. The Council fell into chaos, leaders shouting over one another. Contain her. Destroy her. Study her. But one voice cut through them all. The voice of a human diplomat on the Council floor. You called us deathworlders, he said, but maybe death is not our gift, maybe mercy is. Back aboard the Resolute. The light slowly faded. Nira slept again, exhausted but peaceful. Lyra kissed her forehead, whispering, You've shown them what no army ever could. Ethan stood by the window, looking at the silent fleets drifting in orbit. He knew the galaxy would never be the same, because one child, one innocent being, had just silenced the wrath of two civilizations, the value of one life. The stars above Titan were quiet now. Where moments ago, fire and destruction waited to fall, now only silence drifted across the void. The human and Valoran fleets floated motionless, every weapon powered down, every commander, every soldier, stared at their screens in disbelief. No one had given the order to stop. No one had surrendered, and yet, the battle had ended before it even began. On board the UHS Resolute, the air was still. Only the soft hum of the engines and the slow breathing of a child filled the room. Nira lay asleep in her mother's arms, her skin dimly glowing with gentle blue light. Each pulse of that light matched the rhythm of the ship's heart. Even the air seemed warmer, calmer, as if her very presence healed what fear had broken. Commander Ethan Cole stood near the viewport, his reflection caught between the stars and the faint glow of the child who had just changed the galaxy. Lyra looked at him, her eyes still wet with tears. Is it over? She asked softly, her voice trembling. Ethan shook his head slowly. Wars don't end in a moment. They end when people learn from it. He looked again at Nira and added quietly, but she just gave them a reason to start learning. Across the channel, Admiral Reyes's voice broke through the silence, softer now, unsure. Commander Cole, what did that child do? Ethan pressed the comm. His tone calm. She stopped us, Admiral, all of us. She reached into every system, every heart, and simply asked us to stop fighting. The line stayed silent for a long time before Reyes finally whispered, maybe. We should listen. On the other side of the system, the Valoran Chancellor sat frozen in his chair. Around him, his council shouted in confusion, in anger, in fear. But his eyes stayed locked on the projection, on the small alien child sleeping peacefully in a human ship. He saw no weapon, no curse, no threat, only purity, only balance. For the first time in his long rule, he felt shame. She did what our armies could not, he muttered. She brought peace to deathworlders. Hours passed. The fleet slowly drifted apart. The humans held position. The Valorans retreated quietly, their ships vanishing into the blue shimmer of hyperspace. No final shots, no threats, no last words. Just a quiet end, unexpected and fragile. Later, when the Resolute docked at Earth's orbital station, a small crowd of officers and diplomats waited, unsure how to act. News had already spread. The hybrid child of peace. The girl who stopped the war. Lyra walked down the ramp, holding Nira close. The crowd parted, whispers rising like wind. Some looked at her with awe, others with fear, but one by one, the humans began to bow their heads. Not in worship, but in respect. Ethan followed quietly behind them. His uniform torn, his eyes tired but proud. He had defied every order, risked his life and broken the law. But no punishment mattered now, not when peace had finally begun. Earth Command approached him, their faces unreadable. Commander Cole, one of them said, your actions may have prevented a war, but you've changed everything. Ethan nodded. Then let it change. Months passed, and across the stars something beautiful began to grow. For the first time in generations, humans and Valorans opened dialogue. Trade routes reopened, ambassadors exchanged messages. The image of Nira became a symbol of hope, painted on walls, projected in hollows, whispered in prayers. Even planets that once hated humanity began to question their fear. Because the galaxy had seen the truth, that the strongest power was not destruction, but compassion. Lyra and Nira lived quietly on a small human colony, near the edge of Sol. A simple house under a sky filled with twin moons. Sometimes Nira would play outside, her laughter echoing through the air. Where she walked, the flowers seemed to bloom faster. Children of every species played beside her, unaware of the history she carried. Lyra often watched her from the porch, her heart full. She will grow in peace, she whispered to the wind. Something I never knew. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Ethan visited them. He stood by the garden fence, older now, scars on his face but a faint smile in his eyes. Nira ran to him, her small hands glowing as she hugged his leg. Uncle Ethan, she said cheerfully, did you bring stories again? He laughed softly, kneeling beside her. Always. She placed her tiny hand on his chest, her glow faintly warming the air. You're sad, she said innocently. But it's okay. The stars told me you're not alone. Ethan froze, tears forming at the corners of his eyes. Even now, the child could sense hearts, not machines. Not power, but emotion. Lyra joined them, smiling. She always knows too much, Ethan chuckled quietly. She's half human, that's enough reason. They stood together, watching the stars as they began to appear one by one. In the distance, the faint shimmer of 1,000 civilizations waiting, learning, changing. And in that moment, Ethan whispered softly. Every alien turned her away, but one human saw her true value. He looked at Nira, the little girl who had silenced fleets, changed hearts and rewritten history. She didn't just save us, he said, his voice breaking slightly. She reminded us what it means to be human. The wind blew gently across the grass, carrying the sound of laughter and light above them. The stars shone brighter than ever before, no longer symbols of war or fear, but reminders that sometimes the smallest life can hold the greatest power, and the galaxy once divided by hate now whispered her name with awe. Nira, the child of two worlds. The heart of the stars, the one who taught them all. That mercy is stronger than fear, and the value of one life can change the destiny of every world.